Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking, Debbie Buyaki. Welcome aboard. Today we'll be taking a flight over nature's view, kicking off from Nairobi, making a stop at introduction, and finally landing at Next Thoughts. I hope you enjoy this climate journey story. Seatbelts on and wheels up. Okay, season 1, episode 1. As introduced, my name is Debbie Buyaki. I go by a number of titles and I will try to introduce them. First of all, I am a criminal justice major, which is kind of the opposite because now I am into, and I have done lots of works with climate justice, which is kind of a parallel, but oh well. I am also into the major group on children and youth under UNEP. I'm under Youth for Ecocide Law, leading strategy and policy. I am a baptized teacher because I work with kids now. And more or less, I am your earthmate at this point. And by many of these titles, I usually prefer to go with a tree planter because I am a tree planter. I have a project that right now plants trees across the world. So covering, as of now, 6 of the 7 continents, which is basically all because Antarctica is kind of something different. By the way, if I may explain how crazy this project came about now that it's just seemingly huge. It started probably a year ago or more. I was at this training with a few friends of mine with United People Global. By the way, I am a sustainability leader, just remembered, under United People Global. And so we had like a training, a sustainability training, and by it you were to do like a project in your community. And me being definitely a tree planter and a tree lover, I thought I would plant trees. And some friend of mine, she's called Aisha, bless her soul, she asked me if she could join in my project, which is something I had thought about, but thought it would be so impossible. But look at us now. So she asked me if she could plant trees in her community. She's in Senegal right now. And if it could be included in my project. I was like, yeah, we could give it a shot. So she planted trees by then she was a teacher. She planted trees with the kids there. And she sent the pictures and all that. And it was like, okay, this is something doable. So I started asking my friends in United People Global if they want to plant trees, which is something quite interesting, as I've also learned with asking random people if they want to plant trees. People actually love to plant trees, which is so nice, especially with the climate crisis we're having right now. So I started asking like my friends across the world, do you want to plant trees? And they're like, yeah, sure. So I thought I would make it more of a structured thing because it's not really about planting trees and disappearing. It is more of planting trees and making sure they grow. Only then does a tree impact the carbon footprint when it's getting to maturity. So I came up with a model of planting trees in your community. So you have to basically obliged to watch after it and make sure it gets to maturity, which is standard 3 to 4 years. And my main trees were fruit trees and indigenous trees. Fruit trees because, in a few years you'll have something to benefit from it. Indigenous trees because, well, they're indigenous and they have a lot of benefits in terms of medicine and their root strength gets to the water table and stuff like that. And by that I had, I'm getting to the model. 1 man, 10 trees, 1 day of a rainy season. So basically you just plant 10 trees in your community during the rainy season, so it's easier for the water to, get to the roots and start the tree off better than during the dry seasons. And my idea was because we have different rainy seasons across the world, it'd be like a whole wave of tree planters. You know how the vibe this thing was giving? So basically that's how my current project has been running. And now I am in Nairobi, and this is where our flights will be kicking off on. By the way, Nairobi is considered in the climate world, it is like a big city because we have UNEP here and a few other offices. So Nairobi is kind of the biggie, which is an advantage to me. I will now get down to breaking down what this podcast will be of and what it will look like, how long, and what to expect generally. So the podcast is called Flight Over Nature's View because I thought it'd be so great to have an aerial view of what the land below looks like, especially with deforestation and degradation of the soil and all the damage that has been done. It will be quite great to see how it will look from an aerial view, explaining the different aspects of climate change, its effects, and what can be done. So a climate journey 2030 story. That's like the tagline as well. If I may explain, 2030 is when the significance of it is when the scientists have given us so-called when the earth will have like a time bomb to everything climate. Like we will have extremes, not just now that we're having little extremes, but after 2030, if we do not change our ways of life and ways of business especially, we will have extreme weather patterns and unpredictable climate, which is going to be quite detrimental. And we're already seeing that coming into play with last year, the floods in Pakistan. We have a horrible drought that has been happening in the Horn of Africa with at least 3 years of no rain. And in my country, Kenya, it started raining recently, but those 3 years, the drought was categorized as the worst in the past 50 years. And lots of people and animals have died, and there's a lot of food shortage, which we'll be getting into as we go on. So let me not preempt that. But back to the explaining the podcast. So that's what the title and the tagline really mean. 2030 is also basically what I am going to divide the podcast into. It's going to have 3 seasons, and we're going to have each season going to have 10 episodes, each episode being 20 minutes long. You got it? 10 episodes per season, 3 seasons, and each being 20 minutes long. That was so smart. Honestly, I thought about it. I was like, that was the smartest thing. And each episode is going to be, I'm going to try and make it as much as independent as opposed to interdependent. So whoever just wants to come and learn about, let's say, children and climate change, they can listen to that episode uniquely and still understand without having to have the background of what I am talking about right now. Now moving on to the aims and the objectives of the podcast, which is kind of something I've also thought about for a while now. This podcast has been coming from, I think, the mid of last year, which is going to be interesting. In a few months, it's going to be a whole year. So I've been thinking about it and what was the aim or the objectives of all this. First of all, I think this podcast is going to be, or I want to position it to be more of ageless. People can listen to this in 2050 and still understand what I'm talking about, because climate change has the basic principles of what is happening and what can be done. I want it to be ageless, and ageless also in 2 dimension, meaning it can be listened to by a child and anyone in their late 50s, 70s, and not have to go to the dictionary to refer to things. I want to make it such a breakdown of the complexities in the climate change world and the difficult terms, and just to make it so simple for everyone to understand. By this, another aim is to inform the masses, just to make sure what is in the climate field is being put out there in a way that can be understood simply. And this is because last year we had COP27. COP27 is where we have them annually, and this year it's going to be in the UAE, and it's going to discuss what's the elephant in the room, that's fossil fuels, which is something I'm looking forward to because I want to know what they're going to decide. Anyway, COP27 and the COPs are usually worldwide meetings where the leaders meet and discuss the future of the planet in relation to climate change. So last year we had some statistics coming out, and we found out that we're almost split in the middle in terms of the adult population. So 51% believe in climate change and its adversities, and the 49% doesn't. So the 49% is like billions of people who just don't believe in climate change. So this podcast, to some extent, is more to reach out to these people and show them it's actually real. And you need to hop on and start taking action because we're sharing a planet and we're going to die together. Just to inform people and to educate them on the different areas of climate change with the end goal of bringing action into the picture. We're going to talk about the problems we're having right now, but what next? So action is also a big end goal for me. And this is something I have been talking about in different spheres as well, to bring hope, because we have a whole generation of the youth and the others behind us, the children who are, and the statistics are actually there, who are very much hopeless in regards to climate change and what they think their futures will look like. And many people as well just are preferring not to have kids because they don't know the certainty of how it will be going ahead. So to bring hope is something also really huge to me. What's the tone of the podcast? The tone is very informal, although I am aware that this can be listened to by formal corporates at meetings, so I'm going to tone down on the jokes or something like that. But it's supposed to be informal in the sense that just friends speaking, and then one of the friends goes all out nerdy about certain facts. It's like if you have a friend who's good at engineering, and then you walk past a really cool car, and then he goes like, do you know the turbo engine of this car goes this and this and this? So this is the tone where I tell you, do you know this is happening in this area of the planet, and this is climate change, and this is not something different, and this is what can be done. So it's just quite informal in terms of just friends catching up and going nerdy about certain facts. As for, I hope a whole season dedicated to guests coming aboard to speak on the different areas of climate change. We have someone who'll come and talk about plastics. We have someone who'll come and talk about the climate psychology grief, if I've gotten that right. We've got someone who'll talk about water. We'll have someone talking about environmental law. So I will not go ahead and give you out everything so you can come back and listen. Generally, we'll have in-depth seasons, and one of them being such an exciting one because we'll have so many different aspects to be explained by specialists or people I deem to be great in that field. And after that, we will have, at the end of this season, we're going to talk about, this season is going to be like in-depth, by the way. We are going to talk about different challenges and aspects about climate change. But at the end goal, that's the last episode I want to dedicate it to taking action and how to join in and, you know, what thing you can do to make climate change better or to avert our, let's say, our fate, because that's where we're going to. And it's kind of scary to think about a future that's not so guaranteed. In my country, we have seasons, 4 seasons where we have, I don't know how you guys will explain it in your seasons, but we have lots of sun, then short rains, then cold, then long rains. So that informs how we do like food planting and harvesting to feed the population. It's basically, you know, winter, summer, autumn, spring for maybe the people in such weathers. But just to think one day that, you know, we can actually wake up for 4 years and not have rain, and that will, which is actually something that has happened recently, and that will something that will be affecting our food patterns and the availability of food and, you know, the supply chain and how we get money out of food. It's crazy to think about the uncertainty that comes with climate change. And this episode is for anyone and everyone, be it you are in the climate change fields or not. And the beauty in the actions I'm also going to propose is it's for anyone and everyone, because as simple as it is for me, especially planting trees can be done by anyone and everyone. And this is something that I have realized is quite simplistic, and probably my project has actually come under fire because of such simplicity on, you know, what do you mean you're just planting trees to avert climate change? There's a lot of science with trees, and I will tell you about them if you want to know. So there's going to be the final thoughts on this as I also come to a conclusion of this introduction phase. The youth and the children of this planet currently are going to be the ones who are going to be here for the longest times, and we're letting people in boardrooms in Hamburg and Stockholm decide our future, yet they do not quite know the statistics or how it really is on the ground. You know, if we talk about there's no food and no water in the Horn of Africa, and someone in Europe just says, we can just send relief food there, it's just quite not what is on the ground. On the ground is actually lives being lost, and relief food is not even going to help them. So the youth and the children of this planet as of now, we are going to be here the longest, and if we do not act, we are going to be the ones who face climate change the worst. So it's up to us to speak on a future that we want and speak on actions that we want to be seen. And this is something also the UN is really, as of now, supporting, having someone who's in the category of youth and children present in all plenaries and able to contribute to whatever is being discussed. I know in some occasions it's more just like a tick box where we have, let's talk about everything, and then we'll ask someone who's young to just, say yes so that we also get the legitimacy. So there's that conundrum coming along, but we're in a better place than we were 10 years ago as the voice of the youth and the children being heard on global platforms. And that will be basically the end of this episode, as well as that will be the conclusion on this first season on where to take action, how to take action, and generally just giving each other the courage to go on. So I hope you understand what this podcast is going to be looking into and what it's going to sound like. And I hope to see you on the next episodes, and keep in touch. And I hope everything is clear or will be made clear as we go on. All right, sounds like a plan. I hope so. Thank you for listening. This is doable and there is hope. And I will see you on the next flight.